Alright, so today I will be doing a book review on the book NLD from the Inside Out. So I'm sure none of you have probably heard of NLD, so this will be a very interesting review for you. So the main points of this presentation, I'll be going over about the book, and then I'll be going about NLD, how we can support NLD in the classroom, and why I love this book will be at the end. So about the book is titled NLD from the Inside Out. NLD stands for Nonverbal Learning Disabilities. So the author of this book is Michael Brian Murphy, and it was written in 2016. And then just a little summary about the book is this book is about nonverbal learning disabilities, a rare and lesser known learning disability that affects learning nonverbal skills, such as writing, math, and motor skills. It goes in depth about the causes of NLD, the characteristics, plans for the future, and what NLD students want you to know. So a really cool quote that I found, it goes like this. No one seemed to know what NLD was until very recently. None of the people who diagnosed me had a name for it. Nobody, teachers, parents, counselors, and school psychologists knew about NLD. This is on page 41, and a really cool thing that this book has is a lot of responses from people who participated in this survey who have NLD. So this is where that quote came from. And basically what it says is we don't know much about NLD, and there's so much that we still need to learn, but we still, as teachers, need to be wary of it and help our students. So what is NLD? As I explained earlier, it has learning deficits in nonverbal skills such as writing, math, and motor skills. It's not actually listed yet in the DSM, so it's not an official disorder, but it is gaining awareness and it might be added in the next edition whenever that comes out. And I will be discussing this more later on, but there are some characteristics that are derived from ADHD and also autism. So the main cause of NLD is that it's a right hemisphere disorder in the brain. So there's a greater amount of white matter in the right hemisphere of the brain than on the left. So the problem is it's asymmetrical. And then because there's a greater amount of white matter, that damages the nerve fibers, which causes NLD. And we see this description right here. Mainly the fibers that get hurt from this are the association fibers and the commissural fibers. The projection fibers not as much, but these two definitely. So now we're going into the characteristics of NLD, and I decided to put the ADHD and autism-like characteristics first because I mentioned that earlier. So, like ADHD, students with NLD might be impulsive and immature for their age, they might be hyperactive, and they might have executive dysfunction. A little reminder of what executive dysfunction is. That's basically when you know you gotta do something, and you just don't because you end up forgetting or because the tasks seem too strenuous. It's basically when you just can't bring yourself to do things. And then autism, for students with NLD, like students with autism, will have a great need for structure and routine. They have a great lack of social skills, and they will also have sensory issues. So for a lot of NLD students, this will involve touch, sound, sights. If something sensory is off to them, they will likely act out of that. So some other characteristics of NLD, not necessarily related to ADHD or autism, is that they will have an advanced vocabulary but maybe poor reading comprehension skills, because that's a more nonverbal skill. They'll be more clumsy because of those motor deficits, and so it's hard to move around. They'll have difficulties with abstract concepts and math. They might have poor handwriting. They might talk at inappropriate times to speak his or her opinion, which comes with that impulsivity. They will have low self-esteem, and connected to that, learned helplessness is a big one. That's basically when they've been told many, many, many times that they can't do something, so they end up believing it and not even trying. Oh, and the Wi-Fi cut out. There we go. Okay, so some classroom strategies and assessment that we can do for NLD students. So some classroom strategies that we should do is we need to be explicit when giving instructions. Because NLD students are more concrete learners and can understand abstract concepts very well, it's important that we are explicit and we tell them exactly what they need to do. It's also good to give those instructions verbally and avoid written directions because they'll be able to listen to those verbal directions better because nonverbal. You should allow work to be completed verbally. And all in all, we need to learn more about NLD since it is such a rare and complex concept. We need to be more aware of what NLD is and more understanding of it. And bottom line, you want to see the student as a student and not just as their NLD disorder. And this really goes for any disability, but the books stress this out as well for NLD. And then for assessment, it's kind of similar to classroom strategies. You just want to be able to give extra time on tests and give explicit verbal directions for the test. And when students are completing the test, you can either allow them to complete the test verbally by giving their answers, or you can read the test out loud to the student. And the Wi-Fi cut out again. Okay, so the reason why I love this book, there's really 3 reasons that I picked. So it goes in depth about a lot of concepts. Some of the examples are the biological beginnings of NLD, so the causes. It goes into depth about life for NLD students after high school, so like college, work, other opportunities that they may have. And there's also a section regarding the laws surrounding NLD and other disabilities, such as IDEA, ADA, and then the DSM as well, where it's stated that it's not actually official in DSM yet. And then the second thing is that it features input from real people with NLD. Like I said earlier, there was a survey that the author conducted for people with NLD, and some of the quotes that I found that were really cool was on page 91, I just can't grasp the main points in any story, but can repeat the details back to you in verbatim, and that's regarding their reading comprehension skills. On page 114, there's a quote that says, when teachers do take the time to learn about NLD, they can and do make a difference in our lives. So that's on teaching strategies. And then on page 163, it says, I didn't know what was socially appropriate for the longest time, so people would think I was weird and stay away from me. And that's just on the social cues or lack thereof. And then the final point that I really, really love this book is that the author himself actually has NLD. So what this does for the book is that it makes the content more realistic and applicable. It offers a voice for people with NLD, and readers, both with or without NLD, will know that the information is valid because it's coming from someone with the source. And that is all I have. Here is our source, and thank you for watching.